thank you, Ahmad. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. Thanks Ahmad, and thanks Vicky, and thanks the whole team here, Creative Mornings. This is so exciting. I want to just talk about a couple things that I've never done before. One is I've never seen an audience like this at this time in a brewery with a piano. I've never performed or spoken in front of an audience any time even close to this hour. And I've never had breakfast pizza, ever. And if you haven't had it, you gotta get the breakfast pizza. It was amazing. But I was so thrilled and honored to be asked to do this little talk and demonstration about movement, which is such an important theme. It's something that when I was a student and I was just learning the piano, nobody actually spoke to me about. Nobody actually, my early teachers never actually talked too much about how to actually move and play the piano. And that is so interesting to me now because it's one of the things that I think about most when I'm actually learning a piece or playing a piece. How to execute the piano, this little wooden box here, metal and things in it. It's got 88 keys. It's got 56 white keys. Sorry, 52 white keys. It's early. That's gonna be my excuse. Early. 52 white keys, 36 black keys. The black keys are elevated and pushed in a little bit, which is ingenious. And I was thinking, as I was preparing this little talk, what happened if in history? I think all the history of music would have been different had there been no black keys. And the piano was 88, it would have been gone all the way to the couch. And then we'd have to get some kind of rolling chair to roll back and forth. But it's actually ingeniously figured out to the way that the hand wants to naturally move in and out. And this motion, it's all one thing. And when I was a kid, I spent hours playing with 10 fingers, just digitally, just the fingers, not at all connected to my arm, not at all connected to the rest of my body. And now when I teach, I try to encourage students to stop playing the piano with their fingers, basically, and look at the whole, how you play with your core, how you play with your breath, how you deal with the concept of stillness within movement. Movement also is kind of a funny term to be the topic because a movement is also a musical term. A movement is a portion of a piece, or it could also be the entire piece. It's used all the time, the first movement, the second movement. I'm going to play a couple of movements today, so that's also a great theme. So let me give you a little background about myself. First of all, I'm so thrilled to be back in Florida. This place has become a real second home for me. The Chamber Music Society of Palm Beach has been an incredible organization, and I encourage you to check out their concerts. They are amazing and first-rate musicians you'll ever hear in your life, the Chamber Music Society of Palm Beach. Now, back to my story. And so I'm from New York. Yeah, in New York, people? I'm from actually Long Island. Any Long Islands? Oh, wow. Long Island, amazing. Oceanside. No? I lost all respect from the couch over here. Getting heckled on the couch. Anyway, so I'm from Long Island. I don't come from a family of musicians. I've got older siblings and nobody is a musician in my family. But when I was 2, I started listening to music wherever I could find it. On TV, take a quick pause. On the radio, I was really smitten with Billy Joel. This is the reason I got into music. Billy Joel and Raffi, folk singer, and Mozart, all around the same time. Cassette tapes, LPs, sort of dates me, late 80s. Anyway, I begged my mother for piano lessons when I was 3. She said, "You're too small for the piano. Why don't you play the violin?" And I said, "I don't want to play the violin." But I played the violin, and between the age of 3 and 5. And I remember at the end of a lesson, I told her I need to play the piano. The piano is my instrument. I need to switch to the piano. I feel it inside. The violin, you have to hold it awkwardly. Sounds terrible, you know. The piano, what's great about this wooden box is that even when you're a kid, you can poke out a couple of sounds and it sounds decent enough. You can fool people for a little while, as a kid. So I was drawn to the idea of the immediacy of when you press the key, a hammer is activated. At the same time, it's a lever system, goes up and hits the string. And that creates the immediate sound. And you think, well, every pianist should sound the same. If you press a key and then a hammer hits the string, there's nothing personal about that. But what I've learned, and now that I judge competitions and go all over the world, and I hear many pianists play the same piano, I've never heard two pianists make the same sound on the piano. Every pianist has their own sound, and it really has nothing to do with the instrument. It has completely the idea of physical movement and the idea that that person has figured out their own system of playing the piano, whether it's they use more of the arm, they use more of the fingers, more of their core. It's all related, and we're not going to go too much in depth on that angle today, but I wanted to give you a sense that this wooden box here is a completely unique entity with whoever is playing it. So we're going to fast forward now 3 decades post my starting the piano playing, the Raffi time, the leaving the violin, and I'm going to talk about the pandemic. And we'll skip the 3 decades in between. And basically, I've spent my life, though, just brief synopsis, being a performer and a composer. And I have been looking at music from those two angles. My first piano teacher, was also a composer. And he encouraged me not only to bring my little piano pieces that I was preparing, but also to write a short piece. For every lesson, I had to write a piece. So I was looking at music from a blank slate, from the creative side, from how do I problem solve, how do I create something, how do I find the same form that Mozart used. I mean, basically I wanted to outdo Mozart. And I failed, of course, but at least I tried. But I'm approaching about the time when Mozart died, so anyway, I got to keep working. So my first teacher, again, didn't talk so much about how to play the piano, which left me to figure out all these systems and how to actually create movements that I needed to basically problem solve each little individual situation. Because we have 88 keys and we have 10 fingers, and every piece of music requires decision making at every turn. What finger do I put on which key? Which finger do I put on which key on a Thursday? Maybe it's better if I try it this way on a Friday. Maybe it depends on how fast I'm playing the piece or what time of day it is. So that's why I encourage people often to not get married too quickly to one idea, one way of doing something. It's very important to keep exploring, and the guiding is the sound, is what comes out, and what comes out to the audience, and not the physical movement. The physical movement is in service of the products that you get. So when the pandemic happened, I had a full season of concerts, March 2020, lots of dates on the calendar, lots of trips, lots of commissions, and very, very busy. And one by one, they all got canceled. And, the first one, you're like, okay, well, 1 week, 2 weeks, everyone knows this story. But it's pretty emotionally shocking. It was emotionally completely draining, and I felt completely lost during the pandemic, thinking that my art was tied to the idea of coming to a certain place and playing or writing a piece for a certain group. At the same time, I'll tell you some other things that happened. Woe is me, is the skin piece, no. So I had a relationship that ended around the same time, and the piano was basically the only thing giving me a kind of normalcy, the kind of physical interaction I had with the piano on a day-to-day basis in my one-bedroom apartment in New York City with my 2 9-foot Steinways. That became my whole world. And the way that I actually physically interacted with the piano was everything to me. It brought me back to my childhood. It brought me back to the delight I had when I first pressed the keys and found the sound. And then I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it for you. I couldn't do it for them. I couldn't travel and do it. I had to do it for myself. I had to reshape everything in my thinking. And furthermore, I then slammed my left hand in a car door, and, well, my nephew did, but I leave him out of the story. But but I didn't. I brought him in. And I ruptured a tendon. Actually, I want to show you. This is too much fun not to play with slides. That's me. That's my pinky wrapped up in that's the first splint. And again, tendons are pretty serious, and they don't heal as well as bones. So then I thought, maybe I'll never play again. That's the second splint. You can see my finger's a little bent. That's just the whatever, pandemic picture. That's me. Okay, so then what happened? So now I couldn't play the piano. Didn't have a relationship, didn't have a career. So it was three strikes. So then I thought, I need something creative. What can I do with movement, the movements I have left? Well, I still have a right hand, and you can do a lot with the right hand. And I was thinking, what could I play with the right hand alone? And I Googled pieces for right hand alone. And I found maybe 5 or 6 of them, like throughout history. Very few pieces written for the right hand alone. There are hundreds written for the left hand alone, which didn't help me in the same way in this moment. And I won't go into the reason why, but there were, the left hand is a little more conducive to playing pieces alone, because the thumb is situated at the front, so it can kind of pop out the melody, and the other fingers can kind of play the accompanying figures. That's why the left hand achieved such alone status. But then there were pieces for the left hand that I learned for the right hand, so I tried. But then I decided this wasn't working. I'm going to write my own piece. I'm just going to write a hard piece. I need a piece to play every day. I need a piece to practice. And I'm feeling particularly vulnerable about every facet of life. I'm going to put my life into my art, essentially. And I decided I was going to take my piano to an art gallery and do it. It's not a brewing company. So I took my piano Octavia, that's Octavia, leaving my apartment, which is a steep hill, by the way, and I was really worried. But she went into the truck. It was okay. And that's her leaving my apartment. That's my apartment. It was a pretty tight turn there. But I took her out, and then I recorded this piece that I wrote called Breakup Etude for the Right Hand Alone. And I dedicated the piece, I don't know if you can see at the top left there, I dedicated it to myself. I wrote, at the top of every score, there's a tempo indication. Fast, slow, medium fast, usually in Italian, andante, allegro. I called mine with thousands of emotions, not too slow or fast. And then the metronome marking is, who cares? The piece is pretty violent, it's pretty brutal, but it also has moments of nostalgia and tenderness. And you can see the score. This is again for one hand alone, but if you look at the third line, how the gestures kind of ascend from the lowest range of the piano to the higher range, and then go right back to the lowest range. So basically, I wrote some impossible things here because I needed things to practice, and I really regret that now. I completely regret how hard I made this, but I thought in terms of how can I get the right hand to really take advantage of the whole piano. And if you close your eyes, you might think there are 2 hands playing, or maybe 3 hands, if I'm successful. But the idea of scalar, like arpeggio passages, like that one in the third line, and then there are places where I leap around like a crazy person, like on this page, going back and forth from the most bottom range of the piano to the most treble range. So I really am exploring all sorts of crazy physical movements for the right hand alone. It's great upper body workout. And then the piece, I'm going to go back. The piece has a slow section in the middle. There are some surprises I'm not going to tell you about. Then the fast stuff comes back, and instead of going up, it all goes down. As you can see, the gestures, the movements go from the top to the bottom. Then they sort of flail around for a while, and then the nostalgia comes back. The wondering, it's all about my emotional journey. And I'm going to play it for you right now. It's called Break Up Etude for the Right Hand Alone. I believe this is the Civil Society premiere of this piece, but if anyone, has anyone ever come in here and played this piece before, please let me know. you. So that's breakup etude for the right hand alone. Civil society. And I feel like I'll be shortchanging you if I don't play a piece for two hands while we're here. So I'm going to keep playing. I assume we're okay on time. We're good. So I'm going to play two more pieces. And they're linked, actually, to my breakup etude for the right hand alone, except they're for two hands. Another pandemic project that I was really doing with myself was discovering the music of Felix Mendelssohn. And some of you here are familiar with the name Mendelssohn? Yes, it's perfect for Good Friday Passover because he was born Jewish and then he converted. Mendelssohn was one of the great romantic 19th century composers of all time, composing in the 1830s. He was a touring pianist, composer, conductor, super successful. And the piece that I was playing from childhood is called Rondo Capriccioso, which is one of his most well-known piano pieces. And I came back to that piece somehow during this time in the pandemic. Before my hand injury, I started playing a lot of Mendelssohn and this piece. And I read that the piece was written for a love interest of his called Delphine. And then she wrote music for him and he wrote music for her. And I'm like, who's Delphine? How can I find this music? So now I'm on this multi-year scavenger hunt to find as much music by, her name is Delphine von Schallroth, as I can. And no one else in the world plays her music except for myself, which is true. And the piece you're about to hear, there are no recordings of, except for mine, which will come out next year. But she and Mendelssohn had this musical friendship, maybe a romantic one as well, where they would get together and she would write a piece of music in his notebook and he would write a piece of music for her in her notebook. That's how people hung out in the 19th century, which is pretty cool. Pre-cell phones, pre-Instagram. And her music is gorgeous. And it's a little short movement called Songs Without Words, written for Felix Mendelssohn, and then his piece is called Rondo Capriccioso, written for Delphine. And to me, the pieces go together, and I'll play them that way, and you can feel how her piece goes directly into his piece, almost like they finish each other's sentences.
you. Thank you.
With Felix and Delphine, or in that order you heard, it didn't work out. He wanted to marry her, and he left town, and he came back, and she was married to someone else. And he was devastated, hence the relationship to my breakup etude. Anyway, thank you so much to Creative Mornings for having me. It was such an honor, and thank you to Chamber Society of Palm Beach. You guys are awesome. Do you have any questions or complaints?
Okay, so you injured your hand and then or this amazing piece of your other hand. Hover, like you have to. What was that process like? Like one hand, but then have it practice a lot more.
I started adding fingers. There's no joke. So I would practice. I actually played with 9 fingers. And since the pinky is actually a good finger to lose for a couple of months, because I was still able to play some like Beethoven and some pieces with 4 fingers in the left hand, which I'm not sure how smart that was, but then when I started coming back, I would just be incremental in my movements per day. 15 minutes with the left hand, 20 minutes the next day. I tried to regain strength to that finger, and of course, I didn't know if this was going to be a lifelong injury. I mean, so I went very slow, and I had a very cautious hand doctor who was encouraging me to do basically nothing for 3 months, except splinted in those splints you saw. So yeah, I feel very fortunate that it could have been worse, and I feel like I'm basically there with 2 hands, but it really opened up the idea that, I didn't understand my daily relationship to the piano until I lost it, until I lost it completely. So that was really eye-opening about being very, very cautious with my hands, and sometimes I'm clumsy, so be careful with your hands if you're a pianist.
Are there any other pieces you're feeling so inspired to show us before?
Maybe, absolutely. Let's take a couple more questions first. So just let me cool off a little bit. But
Are you related to Woody Allen?
why?
You're so funny, just like him.
Thank you. He's a hero of mine. Can I say that? Okay. Yeah, he's great movies.
You ever get sitting watching you play with your right hand? Active, lots of stuff in face. You ever get the feeling like put your left hand there and do it?
Do I get the feeling that my... Yes.
You're alone.
Cheat a little bit. I've done that before. I wasn't going to do that in front of you guys. But there's a piece by Ravel, great French composer, called Concerto for Left Hand Alone, which is famously difficult. And I know a couple of pianists who have taken a couple notes here and there with the right hand. But no, I wouldn't do that in my own piece. Any other questions, or? Please.
So it's when you lost the use of your left hand, besides increasing the use of your right hand, were there any other organ like your ears or brain or any other part that you felt like you developed more because you lost the use of the left hand? Like how Beethoven, when he was going deaf, he was still composing music, but listening to his inner ears, his brain. But you felt that way?
Absolutely. Yeah. Did it change like my concept of looking at music in a compositional way? Yeah. Yes. That was bound to happen. Yes, with the breakup etude, you could sense that I had to, rediscover a new way of playing the piano in general. That's why this piece is so crazy, with the leaps around. I was basically exploring what I could do on the piano physically, and that informed the way that I wrote the piece. Also, the emotional state that I was in also informed the piece, and I tried to find some kind of way of merging those two worlds of whatever I could do combined with just putting my personal life into this piece of music. So I would say it had a big impact in opening up new brain ways of connecting physically with the piano. You have a question? I'd love your question.
Well, I have piano teacher there, and...
What was my piano teacher's name? Like when I was a kid? Okay. Yeah, he was a great man. You want to know all my piano teachers' names? How much time do you have? Okay, well, my first piano teacher's name was Herb Rothgarber, who was a wonderful man, and he was a pianist and a composer. And so we would always, as I said earlier, look at music from those two angles. I studied with a pianist named Adam Kent, and then when I went to Juilliard, my teacher, Jerome Lowenthal, who's 91. I still consider him like my great mentor, and I still play for him. He's this inspired Buddha pianist, amazing, 91. And I've had a lot of other teachers too, but maybe we'll leave it at 3 just for now. Is that okay? Okay, great.
Inspired outside of music for you, Braden? What are the other things that inspire?
So, poetry. I often, when I write a piece, will look to a poem for a source of inspiration or a story. I'm less and less interested in writing pieces that are just sort of abstract, divorced from some kind of other tangible story. And when I write pieces now, they pretty much have a narrative, like the breakup etude. Or for my teacher, Mr. Lowenthal, I wrote a piece for him and his girlfriend, who's another pianist, to play called 12 Blocks, because they live 12 blocks away from each other in New York, and they walk to each other. They're like 90 and 80, and they walk to each other every day. And so during the pandemic, they were walking back and forth, and they wanted a four-hands piece to play because they were in a pod together. So they commissioned me to write this piece called 12 Blocks, and they're actually going to play it for me this weekend again. They're bringing it back. So piece is tailored to them. You know, I wrote for them. I have a cellist named partner named Nick Kanalakis, who played a ton in Palm Beach, and I write pieces for him. We're going to have a piece done in Sedona next week, which is all about the landscape of Sedona, Arizona, and the vortices and the vortexes that and the sort of energy you feel there. So I feel like creatively I need a starting point, and then I can go from there.
Do you have a preference between composing or performing? Do you like one more than the other?
No, I feel like the question was, do I have a preference between composing and performing? And for me, I think who I am as a person and who I am as an artist is fueled by both of those things. And the piano requires a little more daily maintenance. It's a physical skill. So I would say that is more of my daily routine. But composing is when I'm writing a piece, I'm up till 4 a.m, just, laser doing it. Yeah, they're both important to me. What's my favorite venue to play in? Well, I think it's this one. No. You can't add that late. No. That's a great question. I mean, I feel fortunate to play where I get to play, and the venues here are amazing. I was just in Europe. I played in Beethoven's house. That was cool. I played in Chopin's monastery in Mallorca, also in March. So I go to some interesting places. In New York, probably Lincoln Center, Alice Tully Hall. It's a beautiful venue. But I also like smaller, intimate venues where we can actually see faces and you can feel the energy of who you're playing for. So many questions on this couch. Oh, okay, we'll come back to you. Okay. My nephew. We'll leave his name out of it.
When you're writing and composing, are you doing it out? Are you taking like a notebook? Are you sequestered away by yourself for a long time? How does that process work for you?
It usually works in all of the above. Usually I'm at the piano improvising, and I catch an idea, not always. Sometimes you have just days where I feel like I don't have any ideas, or I throw it away, like Woody Allen. Woody Allen would say things like, you just have to do the work. You can't just sit around and wait for the inspiration. So I'm also a believer in just sitting down and doing the work. But usually I'm at the piano and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then maybe I'll record it on my phone as a voice memo so I can come back to it and listen later to see if it's still cool later on. And then I'll develop it from there. Please.
As a great person flying around the country and making busy with work, how do you marry the business end of things with the creating?
That's a great question. I mean, the business end of things actually takes up so much time, and it's not creative. So I try to if I can. I mean, I'm no like martyr in this, but try to do it as fast as possible to get to keep in mind what's really important. But yes, you were so patient. Thank you. Okay, that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked about my pianos, and I'm sorry you saw one of them on the street in New York City. That piano is named Octavia. I named her Octavia, and if I got a new one, well, well, let's consider her a new one because she's like only a couple years old. She's still okay, but new one. And the other piano I have is named as Daria. So I have two pianos. They're both girls, Octavia and Daria. But if I got a new one, I don't know. I'd be open to your ideas. But I don't think I can get a new one right now because I have two, 9-foots in my one bedroom New York apartment. So I'm not getting a new piano for any time soon. The names. So Octavia, I was looking up interesting names I found her on Craigslist. And if we had a part 2, I could talk all about my pianos. But she was cool and she was unplayable. And she's from 1893, so I bought the piano and had it rebuilt. And then I realized that I was looking up ancient Roman names, and Octavia was a leader known for her nobility and her grace and elegance. And I thought those were qualities. I also liked the name Octavia because of the octave on the piano. So it seemed like it kind of fit both. And the other piano's named is Daria, and that came pre-named to me. Daria was Daria when Daria entered, so we keep Daria. Sorry. Do I dream in music? Yes. I also dream in fear and anxiety and will I wake? Will the alarm go off? Yes, but lots of dreaming in music for sure. Yes. Okay. Let's just in the back there. I'm actually, that's an interesting question. Yes, I'm inspired by visual art all the time. And just with these Delphine pieces, of which there are a few more of them, maybe I'll play one more right now and then we'll say goodbye. But the Delphine pieces, because there are 6 of them in this set, I've actually commissioned a visual artist to make drawings and paintings about each one. And we're going to do an event next year where I present her works, which have never been presented before, alongside a visual representation of what her relationship might have been like with Felix Mendelssohn. Because it's so poorly documented, there's almost no information about them together. I feel like I want to recreate it through music and art in a fantasy way. And we'll see what comes of that. So that's a great segue. I'll play one more of her little pieces. It's very short and sweet. Are you okay with short and sweet? It's okay. And then we'll, I don't know, keep talking.
Guys, again, I
Can't thank you enough. Another round of applause for Michael. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
What an honor to have you here. What an honor to be in a space like this, and just what a special experience. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So I don't really know how to move on from that. I really want to thank also the team that makes this possible. It is really much more than myself who makes this possible. So if you can look here, if our team could just stand up and get a moment of thanks, because again, from finding venues to speakers to communications to all of the pieces that go on. Mike Schwartz, again, happy birthday. And we have a new member of our team, Kathleen. She's right there. Thank you, Kathleen. If any of you guys want to be a part of Creative Mornings, want to volunteer, want to be a part of the team, come up to me and we can talk about it a little bit. We also have sponsorships available, so if you guys want to sponsor what we do here, all that money goes back into coffee, basically, and food, so all the good stuff. Talk to me again about that. For photography, Jess is right there, pour la vie. Thank you so much for doing the photography today. And Caleb is filming today. We will share that video so you can share it with your friends as well. Thank you, Caleb. We have some upcoming events. I'm going to go quickly because I know we're running out of time. But if any of you guys want to practice some movement and get out there into nature, Benji, one of our previous speakers from the Department of Environmental Resources, they have tons of events available on Eventbrite, all sorts of free walking tours and experiences in nature.
I'm always promoting Boca over here. We have a new theater called The Studio at Meisner Park. It's the old Boca Raton Cultural Center. There's a lot of cool things going on there. We have Alan Cumming is coming. If you're a Broadway buff, you know who that. I see a face over there. We have a QR code there. I say we. I don't work for them. I'm just a fan. And the whole schedule of their upcoming events are there. And we're hosting Creative Mornings there in June, so they're looking forward to sharing their space with us.
Our next event, Friday, May 5th. Really easy way to just stay in touch is scan that QR code. It'll go into your calendar. But again, every month we're here bringing new faces to the forefront, new creativity, new venues, all sorts of exciting things. So, put it on your calendar. First Friday of every month, we get out here and do this kind of stuff.